Welcome to our webinar. Thank you for making some time today. And our topic today is the ROI. So how do we make more money, save money with streamlined project service delivery with Agile? And so before I started TopLeft, I ran an MSP. Actually, I'm still running it. We're going on 19 years. So I know what it's like to have projects sit, get stuck, dropping balls with clients and work. And it's why we created. So today we're talking about the practicality of these things, and I've got two people that will be presenting today. I've got Manny Palachuk. If you've been in the space, probably heard of him. He's been coaching and consulting for 20 years. He's written the books. The one I've got here is called Getting to the Next Level, and he actually just shared this morning he's working on the next version of it, Manny, or an update to it of, improving your MSP. So he's trained thousands of people, doing keynotes, working with a variety of sizes of companies. And he's here not to sell software. It's he's focused on that transformation. And so we've partnered with him on the methodology. And obviously, it's easier to implement with TopLeft, but you don't need it either. So definitely easier with the software. And Craig is here to share on his experiences using TopLeft and his MSP the last couple of months. And he's had some amazing results. So Manny will present for about half an hour and teaching us, and then we'll transition over to Craig, and here's his story on improving project delivery. So welcome both.
Thanks. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah.
Thanks, Wim.
Yeah, you're welcome. And thanks for joining. So with that said, over to Manny on service delivery.
Okay. So let me get the screen share started.
Okay, I might have to.
Oh, yep, you have to.
I might okay, bear with me as I switch this over. Where did my production tools go? There it is.
Right. There should be a special key that when you hold it down, wherever it is, it comes to the forefront and and bounces or something like that.
We're good. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, you can share. Yep.
Okay. Well, welcome to this short presentation of the ROI of streamlined service delivery. I refer to it as the boosting of IT service delivery profits. And everything's looking like it's supposed to, Wim, right? You can see my slide deck, right?
Good. Yeah, maybe post in the chat. Are everyone seeing many slides?
Okay. Again, I'm Manny Palachuk, or everybody calls me Manny, and I have put more people on the cover of Channel Pro magazine than any other business coach out there across over almost 15 years. And I've helped many more around the world, and mostly with their IT operations, but also with business strategy. What I want to talk about at the very top of the list is all business strategy, distilling down to two very simple things, right? All business strategy is simply either sell more or spend less. And you can look at any book you want to on business strategy, and it's going to distill down to one of those two things. Everything else is background noise. And if you look at any business strategy that's developed by any organization, you're going to see it distills down to either figuring out how to make more money, selling more offerings, better offerings, or how to spend less on employees, which cost the most, less on tools, whatever else it is. So if we want to improve either of these, if we want to sell more, we have to figure out what the obstacles are. And typically when you want to sell more, the biggest obstacle is that you can't scale your organization. And why can't you scale your organization? The root cause is usually immature processes. If you want to spend less, meaning you want to figure out how to refine your operations, as an outcome, the biggest obstacle is always that you can't refine. Why can't you refine? The root cause is always drawn to unreliable metrics, meaning if you can't measure it, you can't refine it. It's that simple. So we need more mature processes, and we need reliable metrics. If we can get more reliable metrics and more mature processes, then you have what we call a significant competitive advantage. It's that simple. The only way, in my opinion, in my experience, to get a significant competitive advantage and improve your processes and get your metrics is to change your process. And what I preach, and the reason that I've had so many conversations over almost 10 years now, is that the best way to do that is to move to an agile mindset. And if you can get agile and you see all the understanding of why and what it does, what it drives out of your organization, what it brings to your organization, you can see how it will improve your process and it will allow you to get more reliable metrics. But more importantly, agile will improve your flow. And that's regardless of whether it's projects, service delivery, operations, it doesn't matter. If you move to an agile mindset, it will improve your flow. So whether it's, again, service delivery process, project process, strategy progress. In fact, my book on getting to the next level, I'm using an agile mindset to execute on business strategy. So then this is why I invented these two things. What I refer to as the IT Service Run Guide. And that's really simply, it's the guide on the IT operations that any organization should have for their service delivery. And on the other side, this thing I refer to as Agile Service Delivery, and it's pouring that Agile nitrox into that IT Service Run Guide engine. And with those two, you have a powerful mix. Now, the reason I came up with the Agile mindset for business or for IT service operations in general was I realized many 20 some years ago that all these PSAs, ConnectWise, Autotask, Tiger Paw, all of them, and there may be a couple exceptions, they've got it wrong. And when I say they've got it wrong, they have one of two mindsets typically. On one side, I'll call it connect dominoes. They think that you should stack all of your text one after the other, one service call after the other, like cordwood in a day. The problem with that is, the reason I call it connect dominoes is the minute that one thing goes wrong with one of those, all your dominoes fall. Somebody, service coordinator, service manager, or the techs have to go call all the rest of the clients for the day and say, I'm sorry, Joe's not going to be there. I'm sorry, Joe's going to miss that call. I'm sorry, we have to reschedule. And on the other side, I'm going to call it a lot of tasks. Their mindset is that every task is owned by a technician. And that doesn't work because first, it's very restrictive to flow. And the idea being Joe's got 25 tickets and Bob's got 75. Bob says, hey, Joe, can you give me a hand? Because I got like 75 tickets. And Joe says, I'm pretty busy with my 25. And so you have this unequal division of labor, but more importantly, you have these things that Agile hates, which are queues, and queues create longer lead times, meaning the amount of time a ticket lives in the system. Because if it's the 75th ticket that's waiting, right, it's going to wait for all the other 74 in front of it unless you figure out a way to pass those tickets around and let any tech work on any ticket. And that's not simple. It's a little complex, but it's doable. And it's simply about using the Agile mindset. So when I think about Agile and how what we refer to as a maturity model, it starts like this. Like, I want to become Agile, right? Okay, one, you need to start with the tools, and they have to be defined and configured. Your PSA, your RMM, your project platform, whatever else it is. And that gets you a start, your initial. Then you say, okay, I want to adopt these golden rules of PSA and a ticketing system, something a term I coined. And it's really simply saying, we're going to have some basic ground rules of blocking and tackling every day. All work is done against a ticket, one issue, one ticket. Everything we can do, outsource, automate, or do remotely, we're going to do remotely. Every ticket has an update time estimate, an updated win statement, all of those kinds of things. So now you're at least in a repeatable state. Then you want to say, I got to work and track time in real time, or as close to it as possible. Why? I need data. Remember that data we talked about? How are you going to get it? Well, all work is done against a ticket, one issue, one ticket, in a very well-defined and configured PSA and RMM, and all the time is tracked in real time or as close to it as possible. Now you have data and you're in a defined state. Then you say, okay, now that I've got data and it's all organized, give me some metrics. Now with metrics, I can actually say, what's your lead time? What's your cycle time? And I can actually I can affect those because I know what they are. Now you're managed. And then you say, I really want to get agile. I want that nitrox in the system. And agile is about two very simple things. becoming scheduling averse and becoming assigning averse. It's that simple. And when I say simple, I mean it's simple to say, it's not so simple to do, but it can be straightforward, and it is something that you adopt, like deciding to begin your trek in martial arts. It's going to be a Zen practice that you study and practice all the time, and eventually move up from white to yellow to orange and so on towards black belt. So when I talk about, to zoom in really quick, the tool set, I'm talking about, right, the PSA system, the remote monitoring, your knowledge management system, your service process training system, meaning inside your organization, you have master classes on how our service delivery runs and how we work. Our core competency matrix, another development of mine, which is about driving the learning and growth of the organization based on the team and what core competencies we need to have to be good at what we do and take care of our clients. The service delivery backlog and heads up report, which is something that comes from basically tracking your data. When you're tracking your data, you can put it in a spreadsheet and you can decide and figure out how far backlogged my team is. And if you know how far backlogged your team is, you know if you need more team or if you're ready to take on more clients. And then other things like a PESTAL analysis, policies, procedures, guides, all of these other things. That's level one, right? Now you've got a machine. Level 2, 10 golden rules. And again, I'm not going to go through all of this. Wim's going to give you the slide deck. You can study it. You can make tattoos for everybody. You do posters, whatever you want to do. But the 10 golden rules is pretty straightforward. It's about having those basic blocking and tackling rules. All work is done against a ticket. One issue, one ticket. Everything we can do remotely. We always work and track real time. All tickets have a up-to-date time estimate. All tickets have a witness, and so on. And the idea being, if the team follows these as their golden rules, you will have everything in the system and tracked and time entered and estimates about how much is remaining for that work. That's probably the biggest and most important takeaway. Okay. Level 3, time's your widget. You have to believe that. If you don't, you're not going to make it. You are a labor-based entity, and if you can outsource it or automate it, you get all those hours back. If you don't, or if you have other things that still have to be done by humans, it costs time, and that's it. The number one cost in any service industry, anywhere in the world or the universe, is time, and it is labor. That's it. Right? If you run a restaurant, if you run a manufacturing plant, if you run an IT service company, your number one cost is labor. So time is your widget, and it has to be your discipline to manage that. If it's all accounted for the entire shift, no gaps, no overlaps, no duplicate entries, you've got good accounting. And it may be one of the hardest things to accomplish, but once you do, you're at the next level, right? Number 4, the metrics to drive service value. These are these agile concepts that leak in, but although some are derived from agile, they don't necessarily make you agile just because you do them, and they're transcendental in that they still apply even if you're not moving towards an agile mindset. But we start learning the terminology early. Work in progress. How many tickets are open on the board at any given time? The more tickets that are open of the 100 tickets that are on the board increases the lead time for every ticket that's on that board. We want to keep WIP down. Lead and cycle time is the ultimate thing. I want to get all those tickets delivered as quickly as possible. That's lead time, from the time we started to the time we finished. And I need to do it in an efficient fashion. That's cycle time, meaning how long did it take you to bake a pizza, right? How long did it take you to fix that ticket? So from the time the ticket's put in to the time it's closed is lead time. The amount of time we logged on that ticket is cycle time. Those are your 2 primary metrics outside of customer satisfaction. So then we look at queue length. We want to know basically the queue length, how many tickets are stacked in front of a work center, such as a tier 1 tech, tier 2 tech, tier 3 tech, or specifically, because you're tagging everybody on tickets, in front of Joe, Bruce, Tom, Carol, and so on. Then another metric is what's referred to as percent complete and accuracy. I need every ticket to be a quality ticket all the time. If it is, a quality ticket moves through the system faster. A tech picks it up and looks at it. They know what the next step is. They know how much time is estimated. They know who it's for. They got a phone number. Every bit of information's in there like it's supposed to be all the time. And then we have this thing we call fast flow efficiency. We work, we wait, we work, we wait. And this has happened. This is what happens, right? I called. Carol's not there. I put in a note, waiting on her password. She gets us her password. We work. We get to a stop point because she's not there to verify that it works. We're in wait. Work, wait, work, wait. That's our life. But we want to keep that to a minimum. And if we're conscious of that, we can influence that. And one of the biggest wait things, by the way, is, for those of you who are listening that want to assign everybody to tickets, if you have one tech and they're the only one that can touch that ticket, that wait stalls. It's stuck in wait until Joe gets to it. But if you take hands off and don't say that only Joe can work on it, anybody can go peek in on that ticket, see that the password is there, and work that ticket, and you reduce the work wait cycle and you increase fast flow. Batch size, this has to do with, I'm going to go on site and I'm going to do 28 things. No, stop it. Go on site and do the 3 things that can only be done on site. Leave the rest for remote work, things like that. And then time thieves. You have to watch out for these everywhere you go. Unplanned work, neglected work, unknown dependencies, conflicting priorities. Again, these are terms that come to us from Agile, but they work in IT service delivery no matter whether you're Agile or not. They apply and they work. Real quick, when I talk about Agile service delivery being the nitrox, the idea is this. If you do adopt these methodologies and mindsets, and you do become scheduling averse and assigning averse, you change the flow of work through your system. Very simply, it looks like this. Driving pressure of, let's say, water through a pipe. When you increase the pressure, you get turbulent flow. When you have less pressure, you have the possibility of laminar flow. In other words, everything can flow nice and smoothly. You turn up the pressure, it gets turbulent. In Agile, the idea is that by managing the work in an Agile way and looking at certain aspects of how you treat tickets, the tools you use, the caring about work in progress and fast flow and all these other things, you slow down the pressure, you end up with laminar flow. And notice, you look at that curve, the flow rate, even though you back off on the driving pressure, you actually have a higher flow rate when things are running smooth. So we want laminar flow, right? So what does that look like? This is a case study of a real company that we started working with many years ago. This is real data. We plotted over 12 weeks the efficiency of each tech, meaning how much time they spend doing techie things versus non-techie things. We tracked the ticket count, the estimated time on all tickets to get a backlog. We looked at their kill rate, the daily backlog, the ticket count, hours backlog, everything. And we tracked it for 12 weeks. Now, initially, what you see on here is us teaching them the system, getting them up to speed, getting them used to tracking time in real time, the 10 golden rules, putting every ticket in and all of those basics. Now, once we started to apply the Agile mindset, so great, now you got your run guide done, you've got a PSA, it's configured, you're following the 10 golden rules. Now let's start moving towards an Agile mindset where, again, we stop being we start becoming assigning averse, scheduling averse. We start caring about fast flow, keeping work in progress down, things like that. All of a sudden, we start watching, and over 12 weeks' time, this is exactly what happened. And again, this is real data. The only thing that's different, they took on one small client, they lost one tech, and that's pretty much it. The seat count, the endpoint count stayed the same. They literally doubled the throughput by moving to an Agile mindset. They significantly improved their processes by instilling the IT service run guide, as I refer to it, meaning basically getting the basics done, configuring the PSA, statuses, work types, issue types, all of those things, and then having a defined flow of how many boards you have, help desk, support desk, knock, all of those things. That got them a really good process. But when they went Agile, it absolutely transformed what they're capable of and the flow of a ticket through the system. And by the time we get to week 12, they've found their sweet spot. Their kill rate is higher than it's ever been. Ticket counts down to a lot lower, almost half. Their backlog is down to half. The team efficiency on average, look at, they're literally almost like fish swimming along in a line, in a stream, just right side by side. And again, this is not messed with, this is not artificial data. This is actual data from a real company. The names have been changed to protect the guilty. Other than that, it's actual data. The days backlog, if you look at it, it's all the way down to 1.1 days. And what we come up with is, not only can I double the throughput, but it means I can double the number of clients I have and not add another tech. And I'm going to show you how that works. With the payoff, by the way, right? Simple. Less than half the backlog will work in the pipe, more than double the productivity or throughput or kill rate. And that's without adding or removing any text. This is with adding a client the week before we started. I said we lost a tech. We didn't. We barely got him on board before we started. This is with more tickets due to one issue, one ticket. I mean, the ticket count went up because we started doing one issue, one ticket. This is before focusing on individual tech efficiencies, meaning, hey, Joe, we're going to teach you a better way to do that because Bruce, he does it faster. We're going to watch, and we're going to have you learn from Bruce. And now you're going to improve your method. This is also before focusing on specific work type processes, meaning, hey, let's go look at how long it takes to install a new workstation. It takes 45 minutes. If we could shave 10 minutes off and we do that 10 times a month, that's 100 minutes we get back. This is before we got any of that optimization started. If you had $100,000 in recurring monthly revenue and you could double your throughput, reduce your backlog by half, maximize your team efficiency, that same team would easily be able to service $200,000 in RMM. You literally take on twice as many endpoints with the same number of techs, all because you simply got your process figured out and moved to an agile mindset and methodology. And note, this is just the service desk side, not the pro services, which is what Craig and Wim are going to talk about in a few minutes. Okay. What does it look like if we were using TopLeft, by the way? I love this. Although you may not be able to drill in and zoom in on this. This is TopLeft. And what we've done is said, hey, look, I want swim lanes. This is an agile term, but it works even if you're not using agile. I want all the tier 1 tickets up here, then tier 2 below that, and tier 3. And the idea then is if I'm a tier 1 and I come in, I want to work tickets highest priority, lowest priority, from oldest to newest. What's closest to being closed, that's over here, right? And so what we end up with is, I'm over here on the top right. I'm going to take a ticket that's in follow-up. I'm going to see if I can fix or look at the last thing and do the follow. If I do, I close it. Boom. I stop time on that ticket. The lead time clock stops and it's done. And I keep moving in that fashion. I do all of the follow-up tickets. I skip over anything that's waiting because it's waiting. I move to the ones I skip over in progress because that's some other tech working it. I work the next ticket that's ready. If I'm scheduled, I work a scheduled ticket. And if not, I go grab one from the new pile. That's a very basic interpretation, but that's what it looks like. And so now all of a sudden you're using a Kanban board using TopLeft to manage the work in a very logical fashion. If I'm a tier 1, that's my playground. That's where I stay. If I'm a tier 2, that's my playground. This is what works in front of us. If I'm a tier 3, what? If I'm a tier 3, I'm in the next slide down that is not here because there was only like 8 tickets. But the idea being, if I'm a tier 3, I stay in my swim lane. Only if there's nothing left for me to do I hop up and work on tier 2 tickets. And by the way, what would I do as a tier 3? Hopefully, you will mentor down first, not work tickets. By mentoring down, you improve the learning and growth of the techs in the organization because, well, you're mentoring down and you're helping them evolve in their core competencies as they move forward as a tech. And now that tier 1 can become a tier 2 and a tier 2 can become a tier 3. And the same, if you're a tier 2, you work in here. If there's nothing to do, you hop up to the tier 1 swim lane and you do the same thing. You don't fix it for them. I mean, you might, if we're busy, if we got a lot of tickets that are pounding in, higher priority tickets. We're missing a tech on help desk. But normally you would come in here and go, what ticket can I grab and mentor down to another tech to help them learn and grow in this organization and help each of these techs evolve in their own natural way. Okay, so obviously I've covered a whole bunch of stuff. Again, Wim's going to give you the slide deck. In a nutshell, if that's not a good enough reason to focus on improving the ROI of your service delivery system by moving to not only a set system, like I mentioned, the IT service run guide or anybody's run guide, but then evolving to Agile, I don't know what is, right? Just on its face, it would absolutely transform your organization if you did half of what I laid out. I guess with that, anybody got any questions? And if Wib didn't mention, right, you can type them in ahead of time. We can take them as they come.
Yeah, none have come in, so we will transition to Craig and then come back to any questions. So yeah, pop them in the Q&A or in the chat. We're monitoring both there, and we'll get to them. And if anyone's feeling like they're playing the domino game that Manny mentioned, I always call it the Tetris game of moving your calendar around and trying to schedule everything, update tickets, and you end up losing with Tetris, right? You always lose, right?
Yeah, you get to the higher levels and it gets more difficult, and then you stop because you're done.
Yes, but post that in the chat, right? Dominoes. Yeah. So. Yeah, agree 100% with that, Manny. Love hearing it. It's good inspiration. And this works anywhere. Like we're using it in our sales and marketing here at TopLeft. We use TopLeft and we're minimizing work in progress and pull-based. And even recently I've been working on that is scheduling less and just pulling it, reducing the WIP, the work in progress. So this works in projects as well. And so I brought in Craig because he shared a story recently with me where has had a one-on-one. And it's been really inspirational. Actually, I gotta hit the send live button. Yeah. Let me put my slides back. There we go. And he's made some good progress. So I just wanted him to share his story, where he was at the beginning of the year and where he's gotten to. And we'll share some screenshots as well of his boards without the client names. So, and then
Sure.
Manny and myself will ask some questions to extract that story. So, yeah, thanks and welcome, Craig.
Thank you. That's the first time I've seen Manny's presentation, honestly. And I feel like at the end we said, if you do at least half, and I feel like that's kind of where I'm at. I feel like I'm pretty good at this, but now watching that, I'm like, well, I don't get results in 12 weeks. I got some improvement to do. But I've been kicking around this little industry we call MSP for like, what, 20 years. And before I kind of knew what Agile was, I always wanted to put things on index cards or Post-its or get them visual or get them up on walls and put them in Trello or Planner or whatever. So when I joined Machado about, I don't know, however many months ago February was, so like ten months ago. And what was going on here, I inherited a really, really great team. Lots of good folks, but what was going on was similar to what you just described about the way the PSAs tell you to do everything. Everyone was working really hard, a lot of smart people, but had really absorbed the PSA mentality of trying to schedule everything. So we've been working through a lot of this transition from push to pull on both support and projects, but specifically on projects, I'll say there was also an initiative going on to try to implement another system that was very waterfall oriented. It had been going on for probably a year and really wasn't seeing results. There was a lot of upfront build out needed, a lot of focus on predicting the times and knowing exactly when things were going to happen and exactly how long everything would take. So as I started to look at that, I was seeing we weren't getting a ton of throughput. Um, while utilization isn't an indicator of everything, you could see it in the sense that billable revenue from projects was not where it should be for having 2 or 3 project techs each month. And so again, everyone working really hard, but just not getting the traction. We had 40 to 50 different pro services initiatives in flight at the time. Really difficult to tell what was near completion or not, or aging too long, or blocked. And yeah, I mean, I think that sums up kind of where we were at. Uh, our team, my team, they what was really cool is they jumped on board. We did a kind of a group book club read of the Phoenix Project, which was amazing. Having everybody, it's up there on Wim's wall, and that was fantastic. It was the second or third time I had read it, and the team dove in. We discussed it. It was a really good experience, and a couple of my folks really dove into the training and material on the TopLeft site. And what we did over the next few months, and then ended up getting TopLeft on board because they kind of dove in a little, doing some. I think you mentioned it. One you mentioned at the beginning. TopLeft is really powerful, but a lot of it's that process you learn and apply, even if you didn't use the tool. And so they were getting some of this process going, just trying to ad hoc it through, other tools. So that was a great push. And then we added in TopLeft to the mix, started bringing that over. And what happened in about 3 months or so, we still have a long way to go. It's a marathon, it's never done, but we now had visibility. We went from the 40 to 50 open initiatives down to something like just a hair over 20. Uh, Again, still a long way to go. We've shortened that lifespan. We had a few projects with birthdays. It's really hard to go back in time and change that experience once it's already happened, but we've now gotten those either to the finish line or really, really close on a couple, and again, eliminated a lot of the other long-going work. The throughput and billable revenue has now established a floor each month that's higher than what I think most of the peaks were when I look at the last 24 months of history.
Hmm.
And on our some of our higher, climb in that last 3 to 4 months now is double or triple where we were averaging easily. And that's with basically the same three techs, one leading the group, kind of half doing a little PM, half running it, and the other two acting as dedicated engineers, and still getting more support escalations disrupting their day than I'd like. But still, even with all of that, we've just made a ton of progress. And I'd say that visibility we get in TopLeft, uh, getting some of the habits, the daily stand-ups, time boxed. I think we can always do our huddles better, but it's night and day. And we actually have support folks and project folks both there for that. We keep it to 15 minutes, and it gives everybody better perspective on what's going on, which also means when we do have maybe a little bit of fallout from projects, support doesn't just absorb them entirely. They now have a better idea of what's going on and can coordinate better with the guys doing projects. So,
So,
what did I write down? Yeah,
Craig, first off, so my first question is that you hit a pain point where you went, this tool that's inside the PSA is one step away from useless, right?
yep, I'd say
Okay.
so.
What platform are you using? ConnectWise
ConnectWise.
Autotask?
Yeah,
Huh?
I've been at ConnectWise in every place I've been since 2012.
Okay, I'm really
So
sorry, but so ConnectWise, I call it ConnectWorst, but and it's kludgy. The funny thing is, it's actually a little better than Autotask, but it's still useless. And so you didn't have the visibility. So you went, okay, we're going to move to a new tool.
well, it was a little bit of both. Um, ConnectWise is definitely kludgy, definitely limited, and we did a little bit of reconfiguration first. Nothing like crazy dramatic, but we simplified some of the statuses that you can put at the header of the
Yeah,
project. We
yeah.
so working within one of the approaches we've taken, and I think Wim can attest to, I'm a very slow buyer when it comes to tools, so I kind of drag that out. But I do like to see the team adopting and doing their best with the tools at hand, even if the tools are terrible, because at least that way, when we're going to then go throw a better tool in, we know we're really getting traction from it, as opposed to, hey, slap the tool on and hope that it's going to magically make it better. Like you got to adopt the practices, do the work. So we kind of did our best to rework a little bit of what we had in ConnectWise, clean up some of the statuses, start to simplify some of our project plans, not have so many steps within it. I know what I had wrote down that I didn't have in the right place here. A big problem, and we've made big leaps, is I was trying to figure out why the text utilization was so. I mean, they're there every day. They're working on clients. they're struggling to decide or figure out what to actually work on. Every day they were spending a whole bunch of time going through the projects and the tickets and just like
Mm.
cycling. So that was something, simplify some of that. Came into the stand-ups, came into the visibility with TopLeft. But yeah, basically we simplified a lot of the project statuses. We basically tried to simplify what we were doing with ConnectWise, not use every little bit of it, not try to use it the way they tell you to use it. Um, and then once we had that going, then they were kind of messing around, like trying to use Trello or Planner or another sort of Kanban card system to visualize. Even doing a little bit of, hey, let's put Post-its on the wall. That doesn't solve the whole problem, but it got us thinking the right way. And that actually was the leap to say, you know what, now if we throw TopLeft in, we know it's gonna be like a shot in the arm, because now we can take all those things we're doing all hokey and manual and slow.
So every step you took is a step in the right direction. Like, because ConnectWise won't show you a Kanban.
They
And
will actually, but I think I shouldn't even comment. But I think someone just said we need to have Kanban, and so they said, okay, here it is. I couldn't get it. We
yeah,
even tried to get that to do what we want, and we're like, nope.
yeah, same as with Autotask is you go in to look at it and you're like, can I change the priority? Can I change the sort? Can I? Nope. Here are your tickets and there are your statuses. Have a nice day. And you're like, well, this is not functionally useful. And one of the reasons that I always bitch about Autotask, ConnectWise, all of them, and I say they got it wrong, is on the backside, these companies are using an agile mindset, in fact, an extreme agile mindset and methodology to develop the software. But on the
Oh,
front side, they're still stuck in the old world of stack and run and pushing the work on. And it's like, is anybody thinking at all here? Because like this is doesn't make sense, right? You would think they'd already have adopted and said, wow, there's a better way to do this. Nope. They're just selling that product and they've got this like if I had nothing else to do, I would write a project tool that I could plug into the PSA, and then Wim comes along and he's got the answer. You don't need a whole new, tool or platform. You just need an overlay, and it's beautiful, right? And I even threw rocks at his thing and said, well, you need to have this and this, and all of those things appeared. So when I look at it, it does everything I wanted to do for service delivery side. I see no reason that you wouldn't use that tool on the service desk side. And on the project side, I already knew it had everything because that's where they started, right? But so you go, okay, so you find these problems and you go, this tool got us here, but it's not going to get us there, right? And then when you went to look, were there any other options out there, or I mean, like, how'd you come across TopLeft?
it's kind of interesting. So I had heard of TopLeft, but under the old name, many, many years ago as CW Kanban. And I'd never used it. I had looked at it.
Right.
My first MSP, we did adopt tools, but we were much slower to do so. Like we were a old school time and materials originally, you know, VAR that had converted, and we were slow to add tools. I mean, we didn't add a PSA at all until 2012. Like we were running on from 2007 to, So anyway, I'd heard of CW Kanban, never used it. But I liked the idea, had already been doing at the time. I wish I could find a photo and I never took one. I had outside my office a big cork board because we had a problem with projects back then too. I had index cards and Sharpies, and we just had every project had a card, and that was how we, got the workload down. Didn't know anything about really agile, actually. Only knew a little. So anyway, that's what I knew about it, and then I kind of forgot about it. And I came to this company, and they're in the midst of a year of trying to roll out another tool that was again very waterfall oriented, very, and it's layered on top of ConnectWise, but it only did the projects. That was something I liked actually when we looked at TopLeft was I could pull tickets in too. I could get multiple things visible, not just this one thing. And I was on a peer group called some other ops folks through a peer group I participate in, and one of them raved about TopLeft, and she actually though said their company wasn't using it because there were some cultural challenges on the agile approach, but she raved and raved and raved about it. I was like, TopLeft, I haven't heard that. I looked up and go, oh, I remember CWK, man. That from there, we, tried it out. Like I said, I had the team, it was reading Phoenix at the time, and we were already sort of on that track of like, hey, how are we going to make this work visible? How can I, I mean, one day I sat down actually uh, and it wasn't automation, but manually read through the 40 to 50 project headers and made a quick manual planner board just so I could talk through with the team and go, okay, is this almost done? Like, what, like, help me understand, where is this project? And then I don't know if that answered, but like then from there, we did the demo, met with Wim, and because we were starting to actually apply the practices, it was totally worth it. We can't, we tried, avoid the sunk cost fallacy
Hmm.
and walked away from the other implementation, and shifted gears. And I think I feel looking at our throughput on our NRR, like again, even though you can never stop improving, there's still so many miles to go. But I think we easily got more than our ROI in 3 months, like easily. And that was part of it too. We sat down. I wanted to make sure, even though I was pretty confident, I wanted to make sure when we started TopLeft that we weren't going to end up in a similar situation where here we are a year later, or oh, we like this tool, whatever, but or is it doing it? So we actually also took a moment to do some research on what had the average throughput been, what was our normal
Hmm.
project monthly billing, and then said, okay, I knew where I wanted it to be eventually, but said, you know what? Based on where we've been, if for the next 3 months, 4 months, we can just get to here and hold that line, we will know this was worth it. And we did that
But you couldn't
right
do
away.
that. So your organization then means they were at least where they had been logging time on everything.
Hopefully, but actually that may have also been part of the challenge. So that could have been part of why the numbers were low. So there were
Yeah.
multiple things we changed, a lot of
Yeah.
pressure to make sure. We have another tool that was already here, um, that we mostly used on the support side and do a lot of real-time time tracking with. And that was also existing, already being paid for. Only one function was being used. So at the same time, I also made a push to roll more of the use of that out. So we were also making a big push to say, hey, let's we got to capture every minute. And I think that comes back to that question of I was going, well, what's going on? Why we got two project techs? They're supposedly busy all day long. What like why isn't the billable non-recurring revenue there? Where's their time going? And so we started trying to force some tracking. And then okay, now we're getting more data captured in the time tracking, but it's still not as much as you think, okay, what's going on, guys? And then it's getting into, oh, well, I spend an hour trying to look at this, look at that, decide what to work on. All right, we
Well,
gotta we gotta chop that down.
it's just as confusing for them to look at this and go, I'm supposed to know what the next thing is. And it's just a linear list of projects that you have to click into and go see what the next thing is. And that's kludgy. And I'm going to digress a minute. You were talking about like, when you're evolving and trying to figure out what the next tool is. Anytime you say, I'm going to go find a solution that's outside of that stack, that piece PSA, I'm sorry, I think you're moving in the wrong direction. In fact, I tell a company, I'd rather you work with and figure out how to use the PSA tool, a project tool that's in here effectively, and put those cards on the wall before you try and forklift it and move it somewhere else. Because you how do I sync time, and how do I get the billing right and all that other shit, and that's an important component. Also, the thing like when I was showing that maturity model, you guys, one way or the other, once you started actually tracking the time, that pushed you up an entire another level where we can actually get usable data. And like you said about the sunk costs, it's like, you know what? I don't give a shit. I can actually now get data and I can prove it today versus tomorrow, that project versus the next, that client versus that client, that tech. Like I'm happy where I'm at because I actually have usable numbers that we can actually do math with, right? I mean,
And I hear you say something that's pretty validating because I tend to be in that mentality of like, all right, let's push this tool to its limits. Let's if you can't do it right on paper, then throwing another tool in is just going to help you do it wrong but faster. If a nail gun might be faster than a hammer, but if you don't know where to put the nails, it's not really going to make a difference. um, Figure out, push the tool to the limit, and then if we apply another tool, if we add something on top, if we, then we know exactly what problem we're trying to solve. We know what shortcoming of the system we're actually going to patch with this add-on or this. In Top Left's case, it was visibility. Like we monkeyed our way through using dashboards and other things, simplify the project stack. We could do it, but TopLeft sped that up a ton. Yeah.
I'm going to throw this out there, though. This is something I know, and I think Wim knows as well. If there's not somebody like you in the organization to do this bit, it doesn't happen, right? Left to their own device, it's not going to happen. So if they're on the call here, there's a young lady named Mary Beth, and she went to work for a company, Compliancy, and she is making that happen for them. She's doing that thing for them, and it's massive. Like, if that person, that role, that person has to exist, or it doesn't happen. And the same is on the service management side, on the service delivery side. If the service manager is not bought in and doesn't understand it and get it and want to move it forward, it doesn't happen, right? So that makes me go, like, how did the team, your techs, how much of a push was this? How hard was it to sell, convince them, get them to use it?
So that's where we focused just on projects, because that was a pain point, and projects was only a few people. And actually, I think along the same lines, I've already been sold in the sense that I knew I wanted visual and Kanban, like I was sold from the first 3 minutes of the video I watched. But I also knew, if to a similar extent, actually, if it was just me, I had other things. I got other parts of operations to juggle, and like I knew that this was going to be a gamble, not because of the tool, because of the adoption. So what actually, I guess, to sort of answer your question, so the tech, as I came in here, I inherited. His name's Connor. He's fantastic. What really got me convinced to say yes, we should definitely go with this, is the way he started eating up the educational content. He had poured through Phoenix Project, with the rest of us. The next week or two, I see a copy of Making Work Visible on his desk. Um, uh, he's, eating up the stuff on TopLeft's website. He's trying to figure out a way to get Trello to integrate, to get, he's got post-its there, he's trying to do the thing. He's like, and so that to me was like a clue that, like, all right, we still got a couple of project techs to buy, and we're still gonna have to push this through. But I know it's not going to be me pushing this alone, or fighting against everyone kind of going, why do we have to do this? And so that was, I guess, a key part. I don't know if I could say how it accomplished, but it was like I got a good team who was receptive to ideas, wanted to learn, and then I kind of just ran with that, took the momentum and drove. So even what you're seeing are kind of, this board. I mean, Connor drives this, like that. That's actually what's so great about my team, great about Connor and the rest of the team, is I'm passionate about this, but I kind of don't feel a little bad almost being here taking credit in a way, because it's really they've run with it and done the work. And this
Yeah.
was just getting the project headers broken out. We could still probably do a lot more to get our project tickets cleaned up inside of the projects, but just getting the top level of the projects. I mean, this would have been double the number of cards on it 3 months ago. And now we've got that way more under control. I still think our WIP is higher than I want, but you, you got to kind of roll with what the clients are expecting right now. But as we get things, the old stuff out, we're doing a lot better job of controlling what comes in, and staging it up front and moving through, and also keeping everyone focused on that stuff every morning. Starting from the right, moving to the left, and reminding, if a tech has got 5 of these in progress projects, like, hey, what are you going to work on first? Or do we have it in order? Because I'd rather see you spend all day getting one of these things to the next stage, or blocked, or whatever, to waiting or blocked or whatever, just getting it till you can't work on it, than to have you touch 5 of them and only get each one 10% forward.
You've got them. Highest priority is at the top, then the next priority, right?
I'm trying to remember what we had it sorted by, but I think because its priority doesn't quite translate as well in the projects. We might have had it sorting by age, but we also needed, I think we were going to turn off the sorting on our board so we could drag and drop, so that as we were discussing the morning huddle, we could be like, okay, put this one at the top.
Yeah.
So,
Well, this is what I know about this tool. You can drag and drop independent of priority and age, meaning
unless you get the board set up to do it.
Yeah, well, yeah, but here's the deal. you get to decide in top left how you configure it. If you want to roll that way, you can. If you want to say, I don't want people to roll that way, you can turn that off, which is, I think, right, Wim? Because
well, so that's I think what I was getting is actually this was just like the other week we were having one of the huddles and it was like, well, wait a minute, let's put these in order. Oh, wait, it won't let me. Oh, I think we have the board configured to go by age. Okay, let's change that. That's kind of what I was alluding to. And what I like too is I can do multiple boards to look at the same data or different combinations of data. So we
Yeah,
have this one you're looking at, right? This is the simplest one, just to get that quick huddle. We've got another one that has the swim lanes, and it's based on who the lead tech
nice,
for the
nice.
project
Yeah.
is.
I'll show
And
you.
basically, if we want to, we could have we could have a board that's going to sort by age that's maybe used more for diagnosing problems or just from more of an analytical level. But then for our daily huddle and trying to pivot, we probably want it free to drag and drop so we can just say, okay, today get this to the top, work on this, and go in this order.
Yeah, you could have your daily huddle board, and it's just ones that are stuck or needing to be scheduled. Like that's all we're going to cover that, and that's all we need to cover in this meeting, and then we get on with it, right? Unstick tickets, get scheduled what needs to, and get out. That's Wim, you were going to say.
I was gonna say we're like 5 minutes from the top of the hour. I think we're gonna run it. We're gonna run over here. I don't know if everyone's okay with that. If you got to drop off, just do that. We can put your questions in the chat, and we'll get it anyways. And send it.
There is a question on
Yeah,
managing
Simon.
managing tickets and projects, two separate teams. I mean, I'm not sure what your answer is. Mine is like yes, but it kind of also depends on your size, where you're at in your growth curve, your maturity level. You may not be at a point where if you're small, you may not be at a point where you should be trying to dedicate heads to certain things. But even if you're not to that point where it makes sense to split it, any given tech should still be consciously thinking about what hat I'm wearing, like what am I performing a project function, managing them in separate pools and knowing the work is managed separately, knowing whether I'm putting my project hat on or my sport hat. But then, yeah, as soon as you're at that critical mass, whatever that size is that works, I do think they should be separate because they are different workflows. But you're going to have overlap. You're going to have escalations. And I think being able to use tools like this lets you work with that dynamically.
Yeah.
Your opinion on that differs. That's my take anyway.
Yeah. So in my 2 data points. I got 2 MSPs. So Crafty Penguins, we've got like 15 engineers, and we got them split up into 3 pods. And each pod, they do all the support for the client. They're doing the proactive work, the managed services, the help desk, and the projects, and that's working well. So they split that all. So each engineer might only have 15 or 20 hours a week for projects, if that, right?
But what they're getting at, Wim, though, is that team, the shift between service desk and pro services.
Yeah.
Right. So I've got clients from 2 to 75 techs, right? And it's part of what I always talk about is that when I think about my mindset on IT service delivery, run guide, the agile service delivery, that we're trying to build something that's scalable. And if you get it right when you're small, when you go to scale, it's easy. And so what that looks like, if you're a small team, you have to realize that there's a division of labor and there has to be basically cycles. And so you say, I got 2 techs or I got 3 techs, and we've made a promise. This is where it starts. We made a promise to the client to give this kind of response time on help desk. That's your binding thing. Then you signed an agreement to do a project that has timelines and deadlines. And so you're always scheduling work 2 weeks out on projects, and the work that's in the pipe for the help desk and support desk and the knock, as I put it, there is a flow of a tech from their day, beginning of the day to the end of the day. Check my voicemail, check my email. Am I scheduled to be somewhere? Yes. Am I scheduled on a project? Yes. Manage it and move it forward. No, I'm not. Am I lead on a board, help desk or support desk? Yes. Go qualitize tickets and work them. Work 1 ticket and repeat the loop. Check my voicemail, check my email. Am I scheduled to be somewhere? Am I on a project? No. And with those things in place, then 2-person team can work projects and manage a service desk. And then as you get larger, it just gets easier. Like Wim says, like you can have 3 pods, help desk, knock, and support desk, or 1 pod is like you can divvy it almost any way you want. Because once the flow of a text day is defined and the flow of a ticket is defined, it just becomes a matter of where am I at, where am I at, what time of day it is, that's where I'm at on the map, that's what's next. So that's why I
Literally,
said, yeah.
That's not what we do in Crafty Penguins. Each pod does everything, so we don't have project versus service or whatever,
No,
right?
I'm saying you could
Yeah,
do,
yeah,
you could choose to,
yeah,
like the
once you
big
get your work
company.
cycle down.
Yeah, up in New
yeah,
York, there's a company. They got again 75 employees, like 50 of them are techs, and they have multiple pods. The 7 is the largest pod, but the pod is vertically. So they've got engineers, they've got people that work the knock, people that work support and help, and that team is always growing within and mentoring down. And one's day shift, one's afternoon shift, one's evening shift, and so like yeah, you get to slice it any way you want as
yeah,
long as the workflows are defined for the flow of a text day, the flow of a ticket, the
yeah,
board's layout, all of that ground zero stuff I was talking about in your maturity, your PSA is configured, your workflows are defined,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah, so our largest
Literally
client
just a
using
week
top
ago,
left. Oh,
I was gonna say, literally just a week ago, rolled out a process cycle, like you just described, Manny, to the team that basically said, here's how you should look at any given moment or in between tickets is first, am I on a P0, drop everything, break glass, emergency? No? Okay. Check. Do I have any tickets that the client replied to? I need to, it just runs that exact like, run down this to check what you have to do and move on.
Well, these are the SOPs. This is your workflows. This is all of that.
yep. So yeah, our largest client is 300 person MSP in Australia, and they do the pod format. Yeah, yeah. So we're gonna
Which it only
after
makes
this.
sense. I mean, right? And they've probably got an entire, and they've got 2 divisions, right? They've got completely pro services and completely service desk. I would suspect.
They do pods that are doing mix of service and project, but it might be like it's more around one like unified communications or SharePoint or cybersecurity.
Got it.
So that'd
Yeah,
be a
they're
bit more of how they break it down.
much more granular in
Yeah,
the core competencies and yeah.
yeah. Okay, let's move on to this screenshot here of work orders. What's going on here?
It's interesting. If I had taken the screenshot today, it would be a lot more populated because in the last week we finished migrating off the old board and to here. But what we've been working on lately is the stuff that in ConnectWise we don't think justifies a project, and putting it in the project makes it just too complicated, too much administrative overhead. It doesn't really need multiple tickets, but we also wanted to separate it from our purely reactive firefighting work. So we were calling it work orders. Most of that at the moment are computer deployments in individual PCs. There are a bunch of automated processes we do during that. There is a human element that you need to manage that flow and make sure the work isn't getting stuck. And the old system that was here worked okay when you're at really low volume, 5 or 10 a month. Didn't really matter that you couldn't see what was going on because there were so few and they came in, went from beginning to end so quick without that extra pressure. It didn't matter. As soon as that started picking up, especially with more clients finally catching up to say, "Oh, we better do our Windows 11 upgrades," suddenly that system got pressure tested and leaked a lot. So we've been a little bit hindsight, but we've been rebuilding some of that. So we rolled out a different ticket board and basically added more statuses, and we've been working that in. But we wanted it also to cover other work too that was not just computers. So this was just the beginnings, a work in progress, but we're more or less live now, a lot more tickets in it, and getting visibility onto a whole nother pocket of work in the organization that's previously been a real struggle to see and track. And to some extent, that started with like even though we can apply top left without any changes, even when I had applied it to the existing setup, the existing setup didn't have enough nuance. You don't want to have too many statuses. You don't want to have too few. Too many things were all in one status that represented the entire life cycle. So we gave it some more. And then I guess I'll add, you see it says V1 condensed. I made 3 different versions to start with of this. Condensed is collapsing. We actually have another one that's a lot wider because we wanted to track through the flow of most things where you start off by what I'm calling assessing them. You may not have the product yet, but take a moment, go over the order, make sure you're going to have everything you need. Let's not get the product 2 weeks later, then start configuring it, then realize we don't have something from the customer and get stuck waiting. again, so we broke it down and it has a much wider flow, but this is like a condensed version where more statuses are mapped to the core, new ready whip
Yeah.
up the kind of the bare bones of the life cycle in any one of these.
One of the things for everybody that's listening that we don't have time to show and isn't the focus of this is the versatility of TopLeft to be able to take whatever convoluted statuses you have, if you can't get away from them immediately, and group them into these columns that you decide, right? And it's why, I mean, it's just such a versatile thing. It can help you make order out of chaos. And on the front, it's order. Even when on the back, it's still chaos. And little by little, you figure out how to pare down your statuses or move things, right? And it can really add a lot, to clarity.
If you have too many statuses and it's confusing, you can pretty much use top left to make your life easier without reconfiguring your PSA.
Right. But that's what I
If
say.
you have too few, if you have too few statuses in your PSA, you might need to add a couple because top left won't suddenly.
I've never seen a company that's using a PSA that has too few. All right.
I would have said that until this recent board where all of the things were in and we did need a few more. It was everything was living in the same status though. But
Okay.
anyway, yeah. But I would generally agree with you actually based on my experience. Usually there's too many.
Yeah.
I just really recommend to try keep all the columns on one screen so you don't have to scroll left to right. Because that's just part of making it visible. If it's off the screen, scrolling up or sideways, then defeats the point, right? So on some boards, you don't need all the columns. It might be if you're doing backlog pruning, then you don't care about in progress. And for the guys doing the work, they may not need to see triage or the backlog and just looking at what's up next and what's going on.
Yeah, the wide one is kind of handy for just stepping back to be like, okay, can I mentally wrap around, scroll over, but it's not
Yeah,
quite as useful for that immediate, like,
yeah,
clinchy day to day.
yeah. Okay, I'm gonna move us on.
Oh,
These are the books we recommend. And Manny's book, Getting to the Next Level. But the Phoenix project we mentioned that, which is I'd say like a modern version. It's based on the topics and the goal, which has been around for like 30 or 40 years. Manufacturing, talk about theory of constraints and this pull-based flow. And it's a novel as well. But Phoenix project is like maybe 6 or 7 years old now, maybe a bit
16,
more.
maybe?
Yeah, it's probably closer to 10. Yeah.
Yeah.
The 5th-year anniversary edition has been out for a bit. And then Making Work Visible, Dominica de Grande. Especially the first few chapters are really good.
Tell you what's interesting too, when I talk to clients who happen to be like in manufacturing, it actually becomes a great way
Mm,
to elevate the client relationship because we start talking about lean and theory
yeah,
of constraints and then I love when I can get that relationship with clients too, where I can talk about the inside baseball of how we're changing our support flows, and suddenly we've got like a business conversation going on, not a technology conversation.
yeah. That's great. Because a lot of those companies, they've done it on their shop floor, but they don't do it in their office and their knowledge work and their sales and marketing, finance, right? And it works everywhere.
That's the thing. One of the clients I'm working with now, they had said, we don't want you to just help us bring Agile into service delivery. We want the entire organization. I'm like, that's doable. Is that right? Yeah, you should.
Yep. Okay. So I know Manny presented kind of like a fire hose of information there around the concepts. And so hopefully there's a great appetizer or teaser on that. And he has the masterclass as well, which is online video training on all this. A deep dive. It's what, 10, 12 hours of content or something, Manny?
Well, the main course right now is 8, and I'm rebuilding a new version it won't be out until like March. Anybody that signs up for the current Agile Service Delivery Masterclass will have access to the new version, which will actually be smaller modules, but more content, closer to 10 hours.
Okay. Yeah. So only $500. And through this webinar and through TopLeft, you get a 25% discount using that code, TopLeft. And then he's got the Coaches Huddle, which is like a monthly huddle. Still going on, right, Manny?
Oh yeah. We
Yeah.
got several companies that have adopted the Agile Service Delivery methodology or are working their way through it. They jump on a call
Yeah.
and they compare those heads up, the metrics, to see how they're doing compared to other companies their size.
Yeah. So fantastic stuff. We've had clients going through that and loving it. Um, the And then, yeah, if you want to have a further conversation with TopLeft, we've got a couple free things here. We have 2 online assessments, one around the daily habits of the huddles, some of the pull-based stuff. So it's basically asked you about 15, 20 questions. You can do this in like 3-4 minutes. It sends you a detailed scorecard and result PDF on that. And then one on operational maturity models, looking at some of the leadership, getting you from a reactive break fix and to humming like a well-oiled machine, high throughput, the flow concepts we talked about today. So topleft.team/OMA. And if you do that, I'll personally review the results and get back to you as well with things you could do even this week or the first week of January without using TopLeft. And obviously you can schedule a demo online, a diagnostic. And if you're a ready client and want to get into these, book a call with our CSM and we can get into it as well. So we are losing people because we're over here. And if there's any questions, pop it in the chat right away. Otherwise, we will.
Craig, it was great chatting with you about your progress. I think it's awesome.
You as well. I really enjoyed your presentation. That was great. It's great to meet you.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a lot of questions here, and Manny asked them all, so it was great. We're asking the same things. But kind of, yeah, what's the pushback from the team and how you overcame that and got them on board? So results speak for themselves. We have other. This is not an anomaly. Other clients get the same thing. Like Tennille shares her story. They doubled their top line revenue with the same headcount.
Yeah.
Right. And elevated techs, because instead of a dispatcher giving work to individual people and holding back, was like, oh, I don't think you have the skills. They could actually naturally elevate from a level or tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. There's a lot of unexpected benefits from it. Okay, so thank you everyone for being here and hanging on to the last 5 minutes, or over here 5 minutes, 9 minutes, I'm sorry. But happy holidays to everyone, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, enjoy your downtime, whatever you get there, and thank you very much to Manny and Craig.
Yep. Hey,
Thank you.
thanks again, Wim.
See you all in January, hopefully.
Yeah.
All right,
Happy New Year.
thank you all.